If y'all were present in the recent weekly recap that I did on my channel, I believe the one that I did on the 11th, one of my subscribers came up and asked me and said, Torian, did you hear about them doing this homecoming tour of these HBCU campuses? And I immediately said yes. And to be honest with you, even though I had heard about it, I wasn't intentionally going to do a video on it. Otherwise, I would have done it the minute I heard about it. But you know what? It's homecoming season for HBCUs, and I figured why not do a video about this. So in case y'all are unaware, you have members of Blexit, and I believe these are the members right here in this picture, because this is the picture that popped up when I was looking it up, who are going around doing a tour on HBCU campuses, or that's what their plan is, or what they started to do, to go and spread the quote unquote gospel about turning and becoming a conservative and doing, leaving what they call the Democratic plantation to go to another one, even though they wouldn't dare call the Republican Party or the conservatives a plantation, even though that's just as much a plantation as the liberal and Democrats plantation actually is. I mean, they're both plantations. They just play for different teams. But, and ironically also, they come together at a time or two to get at us, but that's besides the point at the moment. But there are people who are on these HBCU campuses who are saying, I don't care if you're black or you look like us, you're not about to do the same thing. Because remember, of course, what happened at TSU with Cam Higbee and that other dude. And they're like, no, they know exactly what they're doing. You are literally implementing black faces to go on there and basically infiltrate, because they can blend in more better, to try to do the same thing that Cam Higbee did when he went to TSU. And these people at these HBCUs are not having it. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this article from NBC Washington. A group operating under the umbrella of Charlie Kirk's conservative advocacy nonprofit Turning Point USA plans a tour of historically black colleges and universities during homecoming season, which they've already, I guess they started to do. Locally, Blexit tour includes Howard University and Bowie State University. A flyer online promotes to Educate to Liberate tour. Nobody told y'all to come here, and that means nobody wanted y'all to be here, a Bowie State student told News 4. So why are y'all over here trying to start all this drama? Because they know that's what's going to happen. I feel like it's pointless. It's a waste of time, another student said. And that's not something you should want to do at HBCUs and black students. You should want to uplift us. According to Blexit social media, the tour intends to bring conservative values to life, fostering critical thinking, sparking powerful conversations up to HBCUs, and bringing freedom vibes you won't get in the classroom. AKA, they're looking for another viral moment to go and post online, because they know that it's hostility there. So they're probably trying to piggyback off of what Cam Higbee tried to do at TSU, and then they're going to do whatever they can to try and attempt to create something online to talk about, so they can have more to talk about back at their headquarters or their base or whatever it is. They're not slick. Listen, they don't care if you have a black face and you want to come up there to quote unquote start a conversation, because at the end of the day, they know what's up. Those students there already know what the deal is, and you're not going to fool them. And shout out to those students for not falling for it. It doesn't matter if you quote unquote look like them. They know what your mission is. Blexit is attached to TPUSA. TPUSA does not have a good rapport with the majority of black people. They know what type of people are created and fostered over there. They don't want to have a conversation with you, and that's fine. They have no reason to want to. As a matter of fact, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, I believe they went to a school already and they didn't get the reception they wanted to. So I'm like sitting here saying to myself, do you think that the same thing is going to happen at every HBCU you go to? And this is just a heads up to all the people who are HBCUs. Keep a head on the swivel, because they might show up at your school. Now, I'm not sure which schools they're going to. Like, I know they mentioned Bowie State and they mentioned Howard. Of course, Howard's going to be one of the main ones they're going to try to go to, because Howard's considered to be like one of the main HBCUs that people know. If they don't know any other school, then they definitely know Howard because of his reputation. Everyone has a right to their opinion, and as much as we may view them as negative, a lot of more negative opinions have been coming out, and people have been coming out and standing on them, another student said. The Blexit tour dates come amid many of the HBCU homecoming festivities, which was definitely intentional. Students say that time is dedicated to celebrating the universities, reuniting with classmates and alumni in camaraderie, all while enjoying college-sponsored events. And that is all. That's literally what people go to homecoming for. They don't go to homecoming to listen to what these individuals got to say about TPUSA and conservative. No, who's coming there for that? Even if you are a political science major where that's literally what your stuff is all about, they're not there for that. That's a weekend for people to come together and just unwind, have a good time, relax, do whatever away from the stresses of life just for one weekend. They don't want to come there and have to deal with this nonsense. I know I wouldn't. And if they were to show up on my HBCU campus, I would quickly bypass them and pretend that they're not even there. Because I already know what type of vibe they're going to bring. We've seen how their counterparts act. What makes them think that we think that they're going to be any different? They just happen to be black. Festive, very festive, a student said. Alumni come out, everyone comes out, everyone wants to put on a show. Everyone wants to dress up, go out, and have a good time. We have not received a request for space for this event on campus. So now y'all literally are doing the same thing Cam Higby did. Y'all are just setting up shop and not making a request. So y'all are doing the same, literally the same exact thing. Y'all not going to the proper, and you know why they're not doing it? Because they know they would get denied. Bowie State said in a statement about the Blexit tour, the university is a public institution open to members of the community. All visitors must respect and follow campus policies and protocols, including refraining from activities that disrupt university operations. Bowie State and Howard say they will increase security around campus with the influx of people that could potentially be coming to campus during homecoming. The smartest thing that this Blexit thing could have did was announce that they were planning to do this so-called tour so people could be prepared when they try to come, instead of just popping up on the campus like Cam Higby did when he went to TSU. It says Bowie State plans to roll out new precautions this year for homecoming. In addition to boosting police presence, the university is adding prepaid parking for those going to campus. All attendees must register for homecoming day, and all homecoming day activities on November 1st will end by 7 p.m. Students say they want to enjoy their homecoming without any disruptions. The Black American culture just really comes out and just walks across campus. A student said, you'll see cookouts, you'll get a family feel. And it says Blexit has not responded to NBC Washington's request for comment. And you're probably not going to get one. Truth be told, they need to stay away from these campuses. Like I said, I believe they already went to one campus, I think towards the end of September or something like that, or whenever they made their first stop, and they didn't get a good response from what I heard. Like, nobody really came and spoke to them. They just saw them and kept it moving, because people already know what they're trying to do. They're already well aware of who they are. It doesn't matter if you send black people to go do your marching orders. At the end of the day, y'all might as well have been Cam Higby and his crew. So I don't know why they're even trying. And I didn't even know Blexit was still a thing now that we're talking about it. I thought Blexit went out when Candace deserted it years ago. Why is Blexit still a thing? Why are they still trying to hang on by a thread? They need to go away go away like the way of the dinosaur, as far as I'm concerned. Ain't nobody trying to hear that nonsense. Ain't nobody coming to homecoming and traveling hundreds, maybe thousands of miles, depending on where they live, to come and have a good time and having to run into that crap. Nobody. I know I wouldn't. When I go there, I'm going there to see people I haven't seen in years. Have a damn good time. Not go there and run into individuals like this so they could try to talk my head off about going from one plantation to the next. Who does that? That's not the time nor the place for something like that, if you want to be completely honest. And I hope that they get the hint that nobody wants them there. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this down in the comments, and I will talk to you in the next one.
But wait, there's more.
I had to add this part in here because this is going to give you, I guess you could say, a real-time example or an inside look at a stop that they made at Howard University, and basically go over how people kind of responded to when they ended up showing up to their HBCU, or their school rather. So in case y'all don't know, Howard homecoming was this past weekend. It was on, this past Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So this is a fresh article that came out. As a matter of fact, it came, as you can see, it came out on the 27th, which is the day I'm adding this part in. And of course, y'all will see it on what is now today the 28th. It says Blexit at Howard. Conservative group faces backlash at HBCU homecoming. It says Howard University's homecoming weekend was always going to be loud. Music thumping across the yard, alumni flooding back to campus, a sea of black pride and nostalgia stretching from the gates to the stage. What no one expected was a pop-up political rally disguised as outreach. And one thing I said, if I didn't say it in the initial part of the video, I'll say it here. No one's going to homecoming to be hit over the head with any political talk or anything like this. That's not what homecoming is for. At least when I go to it, that's not what I'm going there for. I'm just going there to see who I see, run into some old friends. It's like a family reunion and have a good time. I am not trying to be talking politics. I'm just being completely honest with you. And especially if it is politics to be spoken about, I don't want to be talking about their politics because I already know what they're there for. They can say they're here for this, that, and the third, but we know why they are there. I mean, we know who they're associated with. Blexit is attached to TPUSA, and we know who the co-founder of that was. Blexit, the conservative movement now bankrolled by TPUSA, decided to crash the Mecca's biggest weekend as part of its quote-unquote Educate to Liberate tour, a swing through historically black colleges and universities designed allegedly to get students, quote, thinking for themselves. Y'all gotta read between the lines when they say things like that. In practice, it looked more like a right-wing field trip to one of the least receptive audiences on earth. Their timing was audacious, if not tone deaf. Just weeks earlier, Turning Point co-founder Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, transforming him into a martyr figure for some conservatives. Blexit hoped to ride that wave into campuses steeped in black political consciousness. The problem? Howard students were never waiting for a savior, especially not when carrying the banner of a movement often accused of being a Trojan horse for anti-black policy, wrapped in empowerment language. On Friday afternoon, Howard's Yard Fest was in full swing when a man with bulging arms and a microphone appeared, trailed by a cameraman in an America First hat. Stephen Davis, a Blexit contributor, started approaching students for quote-unquote discussions about entrepreneurship and financial literacy. He avoided identifying himself as part of Blexit, explaining later, "I usually don't say I'm with this group. I just say I'm Stephen. It sounds like I'm not black, I'm OJ." Around him, the party barely slowed. A few curious students stopped to listen, but many more gave him the kind of side eye usually reserved for pyramid scheme recruiters. Nearby, the counter-protesters from Refuse Fascism held up a handmade sign reading, "Blexit equals black people for white supremacist fascism." Campus police lingered close, ensuring nothing boiled over. Howard had already warned its community earlier that week. In a campus-wide email, administrators urged students to avoid engagement with anyone trying to disrupt the celebratory atmosphere. The message didn't name Blexit directly, but everyone knew who it meant. Freshman Summer Johnson summed up what many students felt. She said, "I was unsettled by their presence. From their perspective, it's very strategic. You come to one of the biggest events at Howard where everyone's liberal." Well, I wouldn't say everyone's liberal, but I see what she's trying to say, because a lot of people love to say that a lot of HBCUs are liberal farms, or they push out a lot of people who tend to be liberal, but trust and believe, I don't think everyone there is as liberal as one may think. And this is just to provoke us. Johnson's mother works a federal job, and she said Blex's push for small government felt like a personal attack. Still, not every student was hostile. One attendee by the name of Sam Mahmoud Al-Hassan said his conversation with Davis was about entrepreneurship, was good awareness that should be spread more in the black community. It was a rare moment of calm exchange amid a mostly frosty reception. Pierre Wilson, Blex's senior director, says the point of visiting HBCUs isn't to start fights, but to spark dialogue. Now, see, here's the thing. Remember what happened about a month ago when Cam Higbee and his sidekick went to TSU and they just set up shop there and they came there uninvited. See, they actually made the block hot when they did that. And if I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure, but I don't even think Blexit got a proper invite to go to the school. Well, maybe they went to maybe some schools. I'm not entirely sure. If someone goes to Howard and they're listening to this video, y'all let me know. And can you find out, did they get a proper invite? Like, did they go to the proper channels in order to come to the school in order to do what they did? Or they just showed up like how Cam Higbee and his partner in crime did about a month ago at TSU. It goes on to say a former HBCU student himself, Wilson, argues that young black Americans deserve to hear perspectives beyond the liberal mainstream. He said, "We're not there to cause chaos," he told reporters. "If they walk away and still lean left, that's fine. What matters is that they've heard both sides." That sounds noble on paper, but when your education tour piggybacks off of one of the most sacred celebrations of black community life, the optics are less noble and more intrusive. Students viewed it not as an invitation to dialogue, but a deliberate attempt to hijack a cultural moment for political theater. The data doesn't lie either. Despite Blexit's social media claims of expanding reach, their HBCU stops have mostly fizzled. At Tennessee State, they were asked to leave campus. At a Florida A&M visit was canceled outright. Even at Howard, turnout was so low that by the end of the afternoon, students were asking who was that big guy with the camera. So as you can see, this is a fail. And I believe that they went to, I don't know how many schools. They went to maybe about, I want to say 10 schools. And their last stop is going to be this upcoming weekend, which is the weekend of Halloween, because I think that's like the last round of HBCU homecomings. And I have the strongest feeling that it's going to have the same effect there. See, like I said in the beginning, they felt that because they're black, they were going to be able to blend in and actually get the engagement that Cam Higbee could not get because, you know, he's a white guy. He came on that campus wearing the Make America Great Again hat. He came very cold, and they felt like maybe we can go in a little bit warm because we're black. And as you can see, they didn't get the same turnout either. It's the thing of it is they don't know you. They don't rock with y'all. And besides, even if they were, that's not why they were there at homecoming. That's not the point. If they really wanted to do something, why not do it at a time that was not that? We know why they did it, because they felt like they would get more engagement because everybody's there. They used to feel like that's going to be more volume and all types of stuff like that. But as you can see, it still didn't work. So basically, the Howard students, they basically ignored them. They didn't even do what the TSU students did. They didn't even give them that type of energy because they already knew how the optics would have looked if they would have did that. They just simply ignored them for the most part, because I didn't really hear anything coming out much like how it was on TSU's campus of them being forced off the campus, or escorted rather off of the campus. They just didn't get the engagement that they were going there for. And as based on what I've read, it's happened at other schools. So it's like, when are you going to get the hint? They don't want you there. They don't know you. And the thing is, a lot of them already know who you are, or know what, at least if they don't know who you are, they know what type of agenda you're coming with. And that's the thing. They think that some of these students don't know. They think they're dumb. That's what it really boils down to. Adding to the confusion is the ghost of Candace Owens, who co-founded Blexit during Trump's first term but has since broken ties. Owens' recent conspiracy Latin rants about Kirk's death have only muddied the group's credibility. She didn't attend any HBCU stops, not that I would be surprised. I'm not surprised that she didn't. Yet her image still fronts the Blexit website. And I thought with her leaving Blexit that would have been them getting away from Blexit, or Blexit would have been fizzled out, but apparently it's still here. The movement, much like Turning Point USA spinoffs, now lives in the uneasy space between genuine ideological outreach and a branding exercise for white conservative donors who crave evidence of diversity. By the time Davis and his cameraman packed up their gear to catch a flight back to Turning Point's Phoenix headquarters, the spectacle was over. Harvard's yard kept dancing, unbothered and unchanged. Davis declared the vibes were great. Most students barely noticed that he was even there. What Blexit called educational outreach, Howard saw as an invasion of its safe space, a reminder that black culture, no matter how public its celebration, is still policed, analyzed, and commodified by outsiders. If Blexit's goal was to shift the political consciousness of young black Americans, it failed spectacularly. If the goal was to remind HBCU students why they distrust conservative outreach in the first place, mission accomplished. Because on the yard, the heartbeat of the black thought, protest, and pride, no amount of conservative rebranding can compete with history, culture, and a people who have been thinking for themselves since long before anyone called it a movement. So that's the update right there. And I'm glad that the person, whoever wrote this, It said by an Observer staff. And by the way, I'm getting this from a website called the San Antonio Observer. This was written up by someone who's all the way in San Antonio, Texas. Like, really think about that for a second. This was written by someone who's in another state, in another time zone, writing about what happened there. So let that really, really sink in. So like I said, at the end of the day, this was an epic fail. Their whole agenda was a fail. I have to commend the HBCUs for making that happen. And shout out to Howard for making it even more prevalent. I mean, like, think about it. If you can't get Howard University, which is considered to be like the Harvard of HBCUs, to cooperate, you're gonna fail everywhere else. I mean, let's be completely honest with ourselves here. Yeah, they got some people to talk to them and engage with them, but they didn't get the turnout like they were hoping for. And that's the thing. They know and can spot what's genuine, and they know and can spot what's fake and phony. Blexit falls into the category of the latter.